Hi everyone, today I'm going to share with you my experience with this Lian O11 Vision, and this is a special edition coming from PCMR. Before I begin, I'd like to thank Lian to have provided this case for me to share with you guys, and to Block Soda to have done the arrangement on the delivery. I will first start off with the measurement of this case. If you were to measure from the front all the way to the back, exclude the thumb screws, it's at 480mm. If you were to include the thumb screws from the front all the way to the tip of the thumb screw, this is at 492mm. From the top to the bottom where the feet is at 464.5mm. And the gap distance over here, this is 27mm. At the front, from here to here, the width is at 304mm. Now, as this case is mentioned on Vision, so the top panel, the side panel and the front panel are all tempered glass. And to remove this tempered glass, starting from the top, remove these two thumb screws, grab hold of the hinge over here, just pull to the back, and this will be removed. Next will be the side. Now, to remove this side, there's one thumb screw over here. Once you remove this, right, pull the glass using two fingers, or should I say two hands, hold on the glass, pull towards you, and this will be unlocked. And this whole glass, right, is secured by two magnets, which is one over here, one over here. And at the bottom, right, you don't have to worry that it will fall off, as there are two notches over here. So this is to align to the bottom notch. So if you want to place it back, right, just align it back and to put in place. Now make sure when you place this back in place, right, though it's sturdy, please remember to lock with your thumb screw to prevent it from falling. Now as for the front, I will not remove this at all. In fact, I have removed it and I had a hard time to align the top panel and the side panel. So at all times, right, this is not a hassle or hindrance. You can just leave it as it is, as there are plenty of space to work with. Now for the back, this is just a plain metal cover with two meshes, and do take note on the mesh itself. This is a very wide mesh hose to ventilate air, and at the back, right, it's all the way to the back. And to remove this, right, this is toolless, whereby I can see this mesh is all the way extended to the back, and there's this gap over here. Hold on the gap and pull, and the locking mechanism is of the same. There are two notches over here. If you want to place it back, you can just place on the notch at the bottom, and to clip it on, these are clip on to the case itself, where you have clips at the top and at the center over here. So you have a total of 4, and this will expose the cable management area. And at the rear, this is how it looks like, where you have all the honeycomb holes for ventilator area. At this section over here, it holds two Harddisk caddy, meant for your 2.5-inch SSD or the 3.5-inch hard disk. At the bottom, this is meant for you to house your PSU. This is the cutout of the rear I/O of your motherboard. And take note, as always mentioned on Lian's case, they've done a brilliant job, as in like they rounded all the sharp edges so you won't get yourself cut. At the bottom, there are a total of 7 expansion slots. And this area here, right, you're able to mount a 120mm fan. In fact, you can mount 2, as you can see, there are slots over here. In fact, due to the positioning, right, this is right now at the lower part, which I will show you later. So you are able to house 2 120mm fans. If you to move the tray up, the motherboard tray up, right, you will be only able to mount a 120mm fan. At the front, where you have the glass panel, at the side, this is brushed aluminium. Same goes to the top. And at this side, there is one power button which go to the back, and this you can press any direction to power it on. And right at the bottom at the side, this is a reset switch. Right at the bottom of this front panel where you have the tempered glass and the brushed aluminium frame on your right, below are the feet, and on the right, these are all the I/O ports, where you have first a combo microphone and headphone jack, followed by a Type-C port and 2 USB Type-A port. This is the interior of the case, where it allows you to mount an eATX form factor motherboard all the way to an ITX form factor. Now do take note on this motherboard tray, this is removable. At the moment it's at its low position, whereby at the top you're ushered with 4 rubber grommets where you pass through your cables and to connect to your motherboard. Now in the event if you to move this motherboard tray up, this will definitely block. You will need to remove off this rubber grommets. Once this is done right, you'll be able to move the whole motherboard tray up and it will cover up this tool. Now at this low position of the motherboard tray, the fan arrangement are as follows. Starting from the side, which allows you to mount 320mm fans and 240mm fans. At the bottom, you'll be able to mount 320mm fans and 240mm fans. And as for the rear, since the motherboard tray is at its lowest position, you'll be able to mount 220mm fans and no 140mm fans. If you were to move this up where the motherboard tray is located at the upper portion, the side and the bottom is the same, except the rear you're only able to cater for 120mm fans. For liquid AIO and radiator placement, when the tray is at its lowest position, at the side you'll be able to mount a 240, 280 or 360 liquid AIO or radiator. At the bottom, I wouldn't advise you to do so. Reason being, right, if you fill up with radiator or liquid AIO, you might block those cable passing through the cutout over here to be connected to your motherboard. So that would be an obstacle. And since this motherboard tray is at its lowest position, for the rear, you'll be able to mount a 240 or a 120 radiator or a liquid AIO. In the event if you were to move this whole tray up to its upper position, at the side remains the same, and at the bottom you'll be able to mount a 240, 280 or a 360 liquid AIO or radiator. But for the rear, since this is at the upper position, you only be able to cater for a 120mm liquid AIO or a radiator. If you're using an air cooler, make sure that the height is not more than 167mm. If you go beyond that, right, you might hit the side glass. As for GPU mounting, horizontally or vertically, from here to the front glass panel is 455. You can place 440 graphic card. Now just as an example, I'm not going to take out the card. This box here, right, the length is 420. See, I can place in the case, not an issue. And even if I were to put it horizontally, vertically, not an issue, I can just place it in. So this box is 420mm in length. To relocate the motherboard tray to the bottom section or the top section, all is needed, unscrew this thumb screw. Then you remove off the 2 thumb screws over here, inclusive of this, which I'm going to show you. So you remove off this 2, then followed by this. There are a total of 3, and followed by this. And make sure you hold on to the motherboard tray, if not it's going to fall. So once you have done this, right, now this thumb screw is captive to the motherboard tray. So right now you'll be able to move the motherboard tray out. And while positioning it to the top right, you can mount all your components in, and all your processor, your motherboard, your graphic card and such, then place it back to the case. So right now I'm going to place it at the top position. I'll start off from the back. As you can see, right, the back there are these guiding studs. So make sure you align to the back first before you press and to screw your thumb screw to the front. Reason being, right, if you were to adjust at the front, right, you might scratch the case itself. So always start from the rear where you align this, okay, which I'm going to do. Oh, before you align, make sure you remove off this bracket. Then place your tray up, align from the back. Okay, this is aligned, see? Then you tighten with thumb screws. There's one over here, one at the center, which is the back. And once it's done, do the bottom. And tighten the top over here. So your whole motherboard tray is lifted up, which is at the top section. And earlier on I mentioned about the two rubber studs which cover the two holes. You can remove them, as if you don't remove them, right, you can't push the motherboard tray up. So since this is at the upper position, right, as you can see at the bottom, there is a hole there. So this is where you place this in. As you can see, the bracket I mounted back. Now next thing I will show you is the bottom section. This tray is removable, where you have two screws holding on to the tray, which I removed. So two screws, please do not lose them. Once you have removed this, right, you'll be able to remove the tray. Now something to note of the positioning on the bottom fans. Now I forgot to mention that there is a fan filter at the bottom, you can pull it out. Now earlier on I mentioned that the height from the feet to this, right, is 27mm. But when you place the fan on this tray itself, right, as you can see, it's protruding up. See? So having the fans mounted here, right, there is still a gap over here. So the measurements, okay, by the way, when you want to place this fan tray back, right, see these three knobs over here aligned to the case. Sorry, this and this. And you can place it back. Now back to the spacing where I was talking about. I mentioned that from here to here is 27mm, but actual fact when you mount the fan, right, which is here, okay, where it touches the tray, see, this is the total height. In fact, this is the gap, which is 40mm. Now for the mounting at the side, the radiator, be it liquid AIO or radiator, 360 is not a problem. I deliberately mounted an 280 liquid freezer tube from Arctic, reason being the thickness of the rad together with the fans, right. The height from here to here is measuring 63mm. And as you can see, the gap over here, right, to the top of the motherboard, I mean the space starting from here to the tip of the motherboard, this is measuring at 60mm. So it's about 3mm protruding up. But not to worry, because when you slot your graphic card, right, see, assuming you slot a graphic card, see, it doesn't touch. And if you worry that this is too protruding out, right, what you can do is turn over to the back where you see this knob over here, press it down, remove the tray, and mount the radiator instead from here, right, to this, and you flip the tray. Let me show you. As you can see here, the red original was facing over here, but I flipped the tray and to put it inner. So when you place this back, as you can see, earlier on was from here, but right now it's all the way in. So from the inside to here, the space is 75mm. So you have plenty of space. And when you mount the GPU, right, okay, let me just place this up. When you mount your GPU, right, see, there's so much gap. So you don't have to worry that your fans is hitting the GPU. As mentioned to you, for a 360 not an issue, and this is a standard 360 where it has a height of 53mm. And when you place the graphic card, right, see, it doesn't touch. In fact, there are gaps. Even if you worry that the thickness go past the gap over here, right, you can flip the tray as I mentioned, and to place your 360, not an issue. I've tried mounting a 420, not possible. In fact, it go beyond the case. So don't ever try to place a 420, it will not work. Now as for the bottom, as this motherboard tray is located at the lower section instead of the upper section. So at the lower section, right, when I try fitting in a 360, right, you can squeeze in, not an issue. But the problem is you will need to plug all the connection in first before you place a 360, which you have to mount all the way out. So having said so, right, just to show you, it's at this position where you have the gap. You have only slight gap, see? So you need to plug in all your cables at the bottom first, then mount your 360 at the bottom. Of course, no one's going to mount the 360 liquid air. What I'm trying to say is that if you want to have a radiator, as in like custom water cooling, you can place the 360, not an issue. But just be mindful that you need to plug all the connection point in first before you do that. And one thing good about this, as mentioned, that this bottom tray, right, you can remove. So you can mount your radiator first, plug in all the connectors, then place your 360 radiator, which is possible. Here comes an interesting part whereby I mentioned that the rear you're able to mount a 240 liquid AIO. But do take note that your position of the motherboard tray, make sure is at the low position and not at the high position. Having said this, right, when the first time when you try to mount this, you will not be able to fit in, based on the fact that at the bottom over here, this bracket is obstructing. Don't worry, what you need to do, remove off the PCIe slot, which is this. There are two thumb screws to this, so you will need to remove. I already removed one, which is at the top, and this. Once you've done this, right, removing the PCIe bracket, next thing is to remove this bracket over here, which is removable. There's one screw over here. Remove this. Okay, take it on the position, which I'm removing this way. So what you need to do, right, is to flip it this way so that it's L-shaped over here. Else the original position, right, is this way, where this is it's obstructing your 240 radiator. So we just flip and do it this way. And once you've done that, right, place this back. Make sure you align properly. Then slot it in. Once it's in place, right, you will need to screw the screws in place so that it will hold this bracket before you can mount your 240 radiator. Now, when you're mounting a 240 radiator, please also take note. Make sure that your rear I/O of your motherboard is not taller than 43mm, because once it goes past, right, it will hit your radiator. Now to show you how this is mounted, see, when I flip this, right, you're now able to place it in. It flushes. Just to illustrate, for the side 360, bottom 360, and at the rear 240. And do note that this motherboard tray is at its lowest position. And I mentioned that yes, it is possible for you to mount a radiator at the bottom with your fans, but make sure that you connect your connection on your motherboard first before you plug your 360. And also to be mindful, I know some of you will be using liquid AIO both on your processor and your graphic card. When you do that, right, you can do it at the side, as in like the side to be your GPU liquid AIO, and at the rear to be your processor liquid AIO. But do not place any radiator at the bottom because you need intake air to cool your system. So make sure that no 360 radiator at the bottom when you're configuring both sides with radiator, as in like liquid AIO, because as mentioned, you need cool air to draw to your system. This is the side where you show you all the cable management area, your hard disk area and such. Starting off with the left, this is the tray where I mentioned to you that you can release this tray by pressing this, and to pull it out. Now this tray is built this way. So imagine that if you place your radiator down here and you are putting this back, your radiator will be pushed forward towards the glass panel on the other side. So if you find that the height of the radiator is, too high and it's obstructing your motherboard, you can flip this tray. So having to say, right, it indents in, so your radiator will be placing here and it will push towards the motherboard area, or should I say towards this gap here, leaving you with ample of space or gaps for you to fit your GPU. Now in order to place this tray back, right, there are 4 guiding holes over here with the 4 studs. So you align the bottom 2 studs and to push it back. Now at this center piece here, this is the pillar to cover up your cable management inside. Now this is magnetic. See, it holds it in place, and you can swivel all the way to the back. While you're working, right, this is magnetic too. So as you can see, this is the cable management area where you tuck all your cables, and later I will talk about these cables over here. And the locking mechanism, right, is pretty neat. Let me just show you. See, we have 2 studs over here. So you align to whichever slot you want and to push it in, and this will be in place. And this have dual function whereby you can place your cable behind and to Velcro strap those light cables at the front. And you're given two over here, with this mechanism. And at the top you have 1 Velcro strap to tie down your cables at the top. Also at the bottom. Now over at this area, these are the hard disk caddy. To remove this hard disk caddy, right, there are 2. What you need to do is to unscrew these 2 thumb screws. Once you've done, right, push this up. See? To put it back, align to the hole and push it down. So you can remove off this. Okay. Now as for this, right, how you mount, this is meant for you to mount 2 3.5-inch hard disks or 2.5-inch SSD. Then you mount it on it. And just to show you how the mechanism works, right, let's say you place a 2.5-inch hard disk or SSD on it, you got to flip over, align the holes of your SSD and to screw it on so that the SSD, right, will be in place. Same goes to your 3.5-inch. When you slot it in, fasten all the screws over here. Then to place it back, as I mentioned to you, now make sure that the honeycomb holes is facing you and not this way, right? You can easily fit the inner one and followed by the external. Now the total storage that you can put total of 5 SSD starting from here. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Total 2.5-inch SSD is 5, and for 3.5-inch is only 2. Now when you're mounting the SSD on this pillar, right, make sure you're mounting facing towards, no, it's facing inside. Do not place it outside. If you place it outside, right, your panel, right, will not be able to cover. So make sure you do it here. Now speaking of which, right, if you are placing the SSD at the top, take note on this knot here, which is meant for your tray. It's actually obstructing. So at such event, right, you can remove off this thumb screw totally, just for you to cater for your top SSD. And also if you want to mount all your SSD on the pillar itself, what you can do, okay, let me just tighten this first. If you just want to do some management on your 3 SSD over here, this is removable. So you can place all your SSD over here, not an issue. At the bottom section of this case, this is meant for you to place your PSU. And as you notice from the back, right, this is protruding out. Now this, you're enabled to take it out. There are a total of 4 screws that's holding on to this cage here. So as you can see, right, this is removable. So we can place your PSU and to slot it back. And to hold this PSU cage, you have a total of 4 screws, which is 1, 2, 3 at the bottom and 4 at the top. So which is aligned to this, this, and this. I've mounted the PSU to this cage. Now take note that this PSU is 200mm in length. Before you place it back in, right, first thing you need to do is to tuck this cable away from the PSU area. And also, this cable management Velcro strap, right, might obstruct it. See? You will definitely obstruct. So remove this. Once you have done this, right, slowly glide this PSU in. Now when you're guiding, right, take note on this corner over here and this corner over here. This might scratch your PSU. So make sure you slowly glide in. And once it's in place, right, this is in place, tighten the screws to it. This is how it looks like when it's in place, but I find that there's a better way to mount this PSU. Let me just show you. I will first remove off the PSU. Now as I mentioned, right, when you glide the whole piece in, you might worry to scratch the PSU. So instead of removing the whole PSU tray, what you can do is give all the clearance that you have, place your PSU in. Since this is the sitting area for the PSU, place it in, rest it, and to slot it in. This is even faster. Then at the other end, over here, fasten up your PSU with the screws. Followed by the rest of the screws, and you will be in place. All these cables that come with the case, you will need to connect all this connector to your motherboard in order for some functions, which I'm going to show you. For this 2 USB type A port to work, you will need to connect this to your motherboard. And for the type C, you will need to plug this. And as for the combo microphone and headphone jack, you will need to plug the HD audio to your motherboard. And for the last connector, which says front panel, this is meant for your power switch and your reset switch, which is on the case. These are all the accessories that come with the case. First, you'll be provided with a instruction manual, then followed by all these screws and such, which is packed in this package. And when you open this package, you'll be given a thank you card. Starting from the left, this is a anti-sag GPU bracket, which you can use. Read the instruction manual for more info about this. 3 additional clips for your case, just in case that your side panel clip are broken, you can replace with this. And these are all the 2.5-inch SSD screws, which use this rubber grommets, anti-vibration, rubber grommets for your 2.5-inch SSD. A mounting board, and this back here, I will not go through with the whole package. You can pause and read this, which are all listed over here. When I first unboxed this case off from the box, I am amazed with the packaging. Reason being, right, Lian not only talked about the details of the case itself, but the packing, fantastic. Now this is only one side. You have two pieces of this. It comes with a thick form, which I'm going to show you later, with this reinforcement at the side. And this are thick form, which will protect the case and the tempered glass. And besides this, right, on the tempered glass itself, the joinings, they have included this. When I first unboxed it, right, this were all on the tempered glass side, which is here. And at the front, you have this and this. And not only this, even though this is just a simple rubber grommet just to isolate the vibration of the tempered glass during the shipment or delivery, so this will prevent the glass from breaking. As you know, tempered glass, or should I say glass, is very sensitive to high pitched noise. So imagine that without this, right, you might just rattle and you just shattered the whole glass. With this, say, right, also with this kind of protective rubber grommets, look at it. It's with angle. They have precise angle to your tempered glass. And come to the tempered glass, right, be it the top, the front, and the side panel, it's very well crafted. It's out of the world, I should say. Take a look at the tempered glass, the bevel area or tapered area, and including the groove at the side, which is here. This is actually angled. All this they have done into details, and when you place all the tempered glass together, right, it's very seamless, it's very elegant. Now, the only thing I like to warn you guys is that please do not remove the front panel, as in like the front tempered glass. Once you remove that, right, you're gonna have a hard time to align the alignment. It took me more than 2 to 3 hours just to align the alignment back, which right now I'm actually glad it's aligned properly. Now, besides this, right, the space of the case is very spacious, and I like the fact that they have placed this removable tray in this chassis, whereby in the event, if let's say you want to mount a new system or such, right, all is needed just to prevent you from hitting this glass, right, you can remove off the motherboard tray. You can place all your PC components, your processor, your GPU and such, then plug it in. It's quite simple. And also, when you're doing troubleshooting, right, you don't have to worry unscrewing the motherboard, unscrewing things and such. You just take off the whole motherboard tray with all your components, and you can do troubleshooting outside the case. So these are the bonus point. Now, another trick which I really enjoy what they have done is with the 7 expansion slot. As you know that, be it whether you're mounting a ATX or whatever form factor motherboard, right, the first slot, if you have not realized when you plug your GPU in, the first slot will not be occupied. So they have made use of this into good use, whereby you can flip this and it becomes 6 expansion slot, and this to allocate space for you to mount a 240 radiator. I mean liquid AIO. This is genius. Now, speaking of the radiator arrangement, right, I was fascinated too when I plugged the thick radiator or liquid AIO coming from Arctic Liquid Freezer 2, a 280. Now, when I feed it at its original position, right, it doesn't hinder the GPU at all. You can still plug in. For those of you who worry about the thickness of your radiator and fan, right, you can flip this whole tray and you can push your radiator back, giving you more clearance for you to plug your GPU. In fact, you don't have to, but if you are, having radiator of 18mm and such, when you do custom water cooling, right, yeah, that will be a good function. Now, for those of you who intend to place liquid AIO at the side for your processor, and at the rear, a 240 liquid AIO for your GPU, make sure do not place any radiator below. Just place it with fans, because this is the only place where we draw cool air to your system. So make sure you do that. And speaking of the bottom, right, they had thought about it again. Now, as I shown you, the gap from here to here is 27 millimeter. With this cage, right, it protrudes up, giving you more gap. So when I measure, right, from the bottom of the feet to here, right, is 40 millimeter as a gap. And with fans elevated up from the tray, right, having a 40 millimeter gap, right, that is a lot. It will definitely draw a lot of cool air into your case and to cool your components. Now, besides this, kudos to them too. As always, they are always very mindful to PC builders, whereby they know these are all the sharp edges. It's pitch perfect, all rounded, inclusive of what I show you on the rear. See, I won't get cut. Thank you, Lenny. I like this layout, just like the Evo and the Evo XL. Now, this is very functionable, as I mentioned to you. On top of it, this locking mechanism, as you can see, I push down to let go of the tray, and this is plug it back. They have also designed in a way, okay, they have actually moved ahead, where this center pillar, right, you're able, when you swivel to the back, you're able to mount your SSD. But they have taken into consideration, just because of adding more SSD at the top, this is a hindrance, this thumb screw. So they allow you to unscrew this off so that you can place the top SSD without any blockage. Not a problem. With this say, right, I also like the center portion whereby you can remove and to place your SSD. And once you're done, right, with all the management on the SSD and all the cables, you can just plug it back. It's very easy, toolless. Now on this section here where you see the cable management, kudos to them again. I like this, which was bought from the XL, Evo XL. This you're able to position as and where you want based on this slots over here. And this locking mechanism, right, is fantastic. It is a dual function whereby, let's say your cables are here, you just clamp to it. And if you have thinner cables, right, you can just use this Velcro stripe to hold in place. Things like your fan cables, your ARGB cables, and such. Well thought. Now moving on to the back, where you have the hard disk caddy and the PSU. For the hard disk caddy, I would say it's a hit and miss. I would prefer them to have toolless, but this is not toolless. You will need to unscrew them and unlock it. So it's kind of like okay, not really that bad, still will do. But coming from the PSU part, right, things that I appreciate, they have protruded out the cage so that when you slot a longer PSU, as you can see, I'm having a 200mm PSU, right, you can shift to the back, giving more clearance. But the only flaws that I don't like about this mechanism is that to remove this, right, is redundant. The reason being, right, if you were to place the PSU in and you were to slide in, accidentally, if you are not careful about the top corner and the bottom corner, right, you will scratch your PSU, which I don't like. So to me, this is, so sorry to say, it's kind of redundant, not necessary to have. As I show you, I plugged the PSU by sitting over here and to slot it in. It's quite easy. Alright, with this said, right, this case in fact is meant for people who have good imaginations, as in like how to decorate the case with lightings and such. So all the visible effects you can see through your case. And as for thermal, as I will be doing a system build on this and to test the thermal, that will be on a later content. Now with this said, right, I'd like to thank Lenny to have provided this case for me to share with my viewers, and to Block Soda to have done the arrangement on the delivery. And for those of you actually new to my channel, if you like my content, do remember to subscribe and to click on the notification bell button. Till then, take care, goodbye, see ya.